Welcome to Dialog Choices podcast.
Keith is very tired today.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone.
I didn't set my alarm, so I just coincidentally woke up like 25 minutes before the podcast started, and I'm here.
Isn't that the best thing when we wake up right around the time the alarm would go off anyway, but we didn't set the alarm? That's the best.
No,
feeling.
I woke up like 35 minutes after I would have set. I like to wake up like an hour before something.
Oh, okay, that's not as good of a feeling then.
I need to like eat and have caffeine and let the caffeine go through my veins and exist, and vocal warm-ups. Colonel.
This is fair. Colonel is not a good vocal warm-up.
I don't know vocal warm-up. Do your topic. Colonel had a topic. Present to the class.
I have a topic. I want to complain. Do I get to? I don't get to complain very often, so I feel
you always complain.
Okay. Well, that's fair. But not like this. I'm not, because it's usually when. Okay. Anyway, my point. What do I want to talk about? People have been rambling about Star Wars Outlaws. That's the one. It's all three words. That's the whole title of the game. And
what that is.
It's a game that it's a first person. I think it's first person.
It's the one where the protagonist has Sigourney Weaver hair.
That is true.
That sounds like every fucking like female video game character in the past 10 years.
No, it doesn't. No. They've specifically tried to avoid giving any characters hair in every video game for decades because of how bad it looks animated. Remember the tress effects for Tomb Raider? Like, wow, we have invented new technology just for Laura's hair.
They have to dedicate. Remember, what was it called?
That's why so many video game protagonists suspiciously have a headband or a ponytail, or like, or all the guys have super short hair and so on. Because like,
I think
if you try to have any kind of normal hair, it'll look weird. It has to just be rigid.
Oh man,
I remember. I think it was Heavenly Blade that had one of the 7 cores of the PS3 fully dedicated to modeling the physics to the hair, and it was just a ponytail, really. But
there's also another controversy where people were like, they're manning all of the women, they're all wrong, just because she had like a strong jawline or something, and it's like, I get it. This is just like the far right like dog whistle about all female protagonists, is you just say that they're a man in some way. It doesn't matter how much they're like based on a model or they're just the most woman-ass woman you've ever seen. It's always like, I'm going to reintroduce this debate, and it's a trick. And I fell for it by bringing it up just now. But that's all I know about.
You did. That's not what I'm complaining about. You make it sound as if I'm complaining about that.
I'm trying to say anything about Star Wars Outlaw game I don't give a shit about because it's a Ubisoft game.
Yeah, that's
the most cursed kind of game.
So this girl is the main character?
Mm-hmm. She is, and she has a lovely little goofy whatever that looks like. Isn't that those animals that infest your airplane?
Oh god, they just handed. And her partner's a robot? Man, they just handed this shit. Oh god.
I don't know what Andrew is looking at. I'm sorry, viewers. No,
I'm looking at the
we don't have viewers.
Andrew's just on his own planet right now.
Either way, looking at all the characters for this game. So there's like a girl and a dog and a robot.
It's not a dog. It's a goofy little.
I don't know, a guy.
What is that?
I don't know what that guy is. A Game of Thrones character that got lost, and another girl, and more. It just says and more. I don't know which character and more is, but I'm assuming that's a good character.
That sounds like a Star Wars name, actually. Now that you say that, and more. No,
yeah,
it's better than Han Solo. Either way, my ramble is about. It's not about what people are complaining about this game, because this game came out in the last, this week, and I have numbers for you here, so I could say specific things. It was released on the 30th.
Yeah,
right.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So people are complaining about it because the Ultimate Edition, or actually, is it the Gold Edition? It is the Gold Edition of this game that costs slightly more. The numbers are irrelevant. It costs a little bit more. You get access to it on the 27th of August instead of the 30th. So you have a little bit of early access. So people have complained that they released a patch on the 30th that forced people to wipe their saves for this game, which is a bit of a bummer because, it didn't have the time to finish the game on those 3 days of early access. So you just get, and especially because these players are the ones that are definitely going to be most active because they paid for the early access, and they get that progress wiped out. It's a bit of a bummer.
It's
but
a
that's not
huge
what I'm here
botch
to
to
complain about.
charge people more for early access and then just have your game fail. And then everyone has to start over because their early access advantage is just gone, which is a stupid thing to charge for in the first place. But the fact that the perk is compromised is hilarious, where it's like, it's like publisher promises versus developer always having the struggle of like, our game's not fucking done yet. You can't just keep giving people more extra experiences and just keep promising more. Like, these games are never done yet. Like there's always the nightmare day one patch.
I don't think that's I think that is what happened here, but I don't think that's what's most pernicious. Pernicious? That may be the
word. Well, no, it's that you shouldn't. It's that this is another weird way to charge more for just by manipulating people.
The same. Yeah, it's basically charging more for the same product.
What is the problem with what is so? Yeah, what happened? What is the problem that happened here? Because the save thing isn't a problem. What is the actual problem?
So the actual problem is, or what I'm here to complain about, is that this is a form of scalping, and excuse me if my comparison is not. Let me get to the point. Excuse me if my comparison is not fully waterproof or airtight or whatever it's called, but I think that selling early access for a fee, selling early access to your games, is a sort of scalping from the companies who publish the games. So because it's very much the same as taking advantage of your. First off, it's charging more to your most dedicated fan base. Your most dedicated fans will want to play the game as soon as they possibly can, so they're most likely to buy the higher cost editions, which are the ones that give you access earlier, right? And people who don't care as much, they'll wait. They'll wait until it comes down to normal price, or they'll buy the normal edition, or they'll wait until it comes down even more in price. Maybe they get it on a discount or whatever, right?
Okay.
And that's always happened, right? I like in a way this. I could talk about this in a different light, and it wouldn't be scalping anymore. If you considered. Let me see. The gold edition costs $110. So if you considered Star Wars Outlaws 2 cost $110 on release,
the gold edition costs $110.
That's right.
Yeah, it comes with the season pass.
Yeah,
that's too much.
It doesn't matter what it comes with.
No, the base game is the base price. The base game is $70.
That's $70.
$70. But you can consider the base game
pass and 3 days of early access. I'm sorry. Is the Ultimate Edition $400?
Ultimate Edition is $130.
It's not that much.
That's surprisingly close to the other price. I thought that the Ultimate Edition was going to be $100, so I wasn't ready for the Gold Edition to be $100.
The season pass
110,
includes,
in fact.
It's
just cosmetics.
Pass includes
cosmetics.
Includes 2 expansion packs, so 2 expansion packs and 2 cosmetic packs. And if you it includes 2 season pass, 2 expansions. It includes 1 mission and 1 character pack. So you're getting 4
wow,
things.
that's like a whole new game.
No. I think you're wrong. I think you're talking about the Ultimate Edition. That's the Ultimate Edition.
No, gold edition, base game.
Okay, you may be right. But either way, my point is
back in the hell of fucking AAA launch day product.
Yes.
Fucking spreadsheets. I hate it so much.
It's not happening forever. They have never changed.
No, it's that you guys consistent. Brought me back here. I've been free.
Oh, right. We did. Sorry.
I've been free of these fucking spreadsheets about the Whoopoo edition. It comes with the free dildo. It's actually molded on the actor.
I just pulled up the page because I wanted to see what the fuck we're talking about. I can't keep track of every shit game that comes out every year. This is fine. I don't see any problems with this. What am I?
The thing, that is a problem though. So because
what is?
Well, the problem you can look. There's 2 possible problems. So you say because you said the base edition of the game costs $70, but the thing is the base edition of the game the one that's available 3 days after the initial release of the game? Yeah, or is the base edition of the game?
No, the base game comes out when the game comes out.
The game came out on the 27th. That's when it was made public.
Early access started on the 27th. The game didn't come out until after the early access ended.
But that's what I'm saying. Those are words that the publisher wants to use, which is fine. But
I think what happened. That is what happened. The base game was coming out after the early access. What was the lie?
That is why I started with the scalping analogy, because I think in a way you can look at this as the base game costing $110 and just going on a permanent discount 3 days after release for $70.
No. It comes with two entire expansions in the season pass.
They sell a
no.
They sell a cheaper version of the game.
No, laying down the rules here. This is a consistent value that has been the same for the past 20 fucking years. You have always been able to buy the base game, and then you can buy like a weird, shitty season pass mumbo jumbo shit that costs like almost double the cost, because you're buying a season pass ahead of time with vague value to it, because you don't know what they're going to charge the season pass when it comes out. Like you're talking
about the season pass, but I'm not talking about the season pass. I'm talking about early access.
Makes it $109. No, it's not early access being sold. No, yes, it is. That's literally the math. What do you mean?
Diablo 4.
What?
Diablo 4 Digital Deluxe Edition was sold for $90. That gave you they gave you 3 days, I think. Is it? Let me check.
How many season passes?
4 no season passes. The
paid $90.
It's $90 for the Digital Deluxe Edition, and it gave you.
Okay.
Let me actually see.
Well, okay, so Blizzard does the same shit Ubisoft does.
Yeah, of course.
Digital Deluxe Edition includes a bunch of shit.
But it does. They have like a cosmetic or whatever, and because it's basically like a pre-order.
It usually.
I mean, Blizzard's a bit more nefarious about it, because if they give you early access to Diablo or World of Warcraft, like those specifically have a competitive element to their ladder. Yeah, like specifically, people 100%. Always talk about server first and stuff like that in WoW. So giving people an advantage, but only if they pay like twice as much for the expansion. It's like,
100%.
I don't like that.
But it's not. It's not the only example. It's not the only example. Back in October 2021, Battlefield 2042, if you pre-ordered the game, no, actually, wait, if you pre-ordered a certain edition, you had access to it a full week earlier. You had access to the game, and you can play the game a full week earlier. And these are competitive games as well, so there's a competitive advantage to paying, which is, I mean, I think that that shapes the narrative or shapes the discussion that we're having. But my problem with this is that as presented to us as players, that companies are selling for selling basically the same game, but for a higher price on the first time you can play the game is a higher price than 3 or 4 days later. That's basically scalping, because what these companies are doing is they're forcing they know they have the market, obviously, because it's their game. They sell the game for as much as they possibly can.
It relates to scalping in other ways too, just in the way that like it's limited access to a thing. You can't get into it otherwise without spending more money. Just like how like if a venue is sold out, you have to buy these inflated price tickets from third parties in order to get in it all, or you miss out on the entire event. So it's dealing with FOMO. If you are the most engaged members of a particular fandom, which is why it's great to just not. But if you are the most engaged people, you're like on the Reddit, or you're in a little TikTok, Twitter bubble of just people talking about this all the time, then you're just gonna get flooded with people who are all experiencing this thing while you're not. Yeah, and that'll like that potentially would push you to cave and buy the thing, especially. But with itself being like, now that it's already started, you're late to the party of being early, so you're gonna pay the same inflated price to get a thing early, but after everyone else already is in it, and you'll spend the first day trying to download the game, and you'll lose a third of the perk for the same price.
Yeah, 100%. And this is already in light of a market of people who are so susceptible to that. I'm not blaming anybody for being susceptible, but it is a market of players who are susceptible to the need of playing the game as soon as possible. And that's fair. That's a fair thing. I mean, it's fun to play games. You want to have fun as soon as you can. That's totally fine. But these companies exploit that to as much as possible. And it's very similar. It's already like people buying games on release is already a problem. We have already a problem. So that's a problem because they don't wait for reviews. So people ideally should wait for reviews to make an informed decision. But people just trust the companies or know what to expect or are okay with an inferior the product if indeed it is an inferior product. So a lot of times people just buy the game and hope that it's a good game, and if it isn't, they don't even regret their decision. They just like whatever. So it's not as good. Maybe the next one is going to be better, right? But on top of that, you have.
I don't think Diablo is a good example of this. Actually, if you do the math, this is pretty good. Your options either pay $70 for both the game and the expansion, pay $40.
Oh no, we're not talking.
No, I know.
I wasn't talking about the expansion.
You made Diablo as an example, but this is actually pretty reasonable.
But you're looking at the expansion, Vessel of Hatred, which is I was talking about the original release of Diablo 4. I don't know. I mean, are they also gonna because what they're doing basically is they're shutting the gates to their disco unless you pay more. Our disco is open on the 20th or whatever, but unless you paid the special golden price, we're not gonna let you in for 3 days. Does that make sense? You paid the game, you have the ticket, you have the game, right? But if it isn't the golden, no, you're not coming in, even though it is.
But
open.
But again, that's not the only thing you get. You don't just pay for access early. You pay for a bunch of other shit, and as a reward for buying a bunch of other shit, you also get early access. But like you can either buy a normal ticket in the nosebleed seats, or you can pay a little bit more to get the seats in the front of the concert, but they let you get into a stadium to get your seats before everyone else. That's totally fine.
No, like, it isn't, because my problem is they're using the early access as one of the things that you get, and they shouldn't.
You don't need it. It's not a requirement. You don't have to have it.
No, you don't need to buy the game at all. That's not an argument,
well, sure, but I'm saying that if you want to play the game, playing the game when it comes out versus playing the game 3 days ahead of time before it needs a day one patch and a bunch of updates anyways, doesn't change anything. Like
it does though, because they get a lot more money from the price of the game.
No, for the player. What is the difference in the player experience between playing it on launch day and playing it when the game when the game is like early access?
That's not for me to decide, because I'm one of those players that waits. Like, for example, I can give you 2 examples: Diablo 4 and City Skylines 2. There's 2 games that I was mildly interested in, and potentially would have bought on release. I saw the reviews of Diablo 4, or actually, what I did is I saw the reception of Diablo 4 on the 3 days early, but also saw the reviews, and I said, okay, I'm not buying Diablo 4 at full price. It costs $70. That's bullshit. I waited 6 months. It went on sale. I bought it for $40. That's fine. It's whatever. I
should have waited. You could have got it for the expansion and the game for $70 for the full price of the regular game.
No, I'm not going to buy the expansion. But my point is,
why did you buy the game? What the fuck?
I wanted to play it a little bit, and I did.
What? Okay.
You know, that people play like that. I'm not unique in that. People play games like that. That's why expansions. That's why expansions exist.
I mean, yes, people do not universally buy. I mean, famously, expansions sell much worse than the original game. That's the whole. That's
because they're there for the players that are most dedicated.
Well, but I meant that like if you're gonna wait for it to go on sale anyways, you might as well wait until the expansion comes out and then just buy the bundle, because then you get both for the price of the game.
I'll buy until all the expansions are out, and then I'll buy them all in the bundle, maybe. But my point, I want to compare it to City Skylines 2, because it is an answer to your question of what does the player get, and my answer is it's for every person to decide. So for me, what I got from Diablo 4 6 months after release or whatever was the same, or actually was more than if I had bought it on release, because what I wanted is just sort of the experience of playing the game. But for City Skylines 2, which I haven't bought, by the way, not yet, I'm actually waiting for it to go on discount, but because it's so buggy and because it doesn't have mods, or the mods aren't very advanced, I'm just literally waiting for them to release the mods, the custom assets and things, so I can, and then I'll even pay full price for it. But my point is, I'm waiting for the game to be the kind of game that I want to play, and that's the kind of player I am. But there's a lot of other people that get the game to play with their friends, or they get the game to talk about on Twitter or whatever. And that's for each person to decide. My point isn't what people get, though. My point is that the act of gating access to your game based on paying more is similar to scalping, because you're controlling. Because again, if you were like a thing, imagine if we're like an MMO. I think an MMO would get away with this sort of thing. An MMO where you're ramping up server infrastructure, and at the beginning on release, you only have 100 server seats, and you literally only sell the only version of the game you sell is one that costs like $200 or something absurd like that, and only the most fervent players would buy it because it's expensive. And you would sort of gate the access to your game like that, instead of like, I don't know what else. What the alternative would be? You just like stop sales, release the game, and then after you sell like 200,000 copies, you say, okay, no more sales until we upgrade our servers. You wouldn't do that, right? You would do it some other way. But what I'm trying to say is, companies, especially for single player games, it's so absurd. But what they're doing is they're gating the access of the game, or to the game, based on a completely artificial thing, which is, the game isn't like. It's not like a physical thing. It's not like you get it, or it's not like you order it on Etsy and you get the first shipment if you pay more, which is totally fair. If you pay more, you get the first shipment, and otherwise you have to wait a week.
No,
that's fair.
No, that's
not fair though. But it happens. Like
no,
that's why people pre-order. That's why people pre-order physical things, is because that way you get the first sort of batch, right? It happens.
Okay, so people who can't order it, or it's completely reasonable for people who can't do that, who live in areas that don't get physical shipments early. People who it's no different. You should not be able to get. If your argument is people shouldn't be able to pay to get a head start on anybody else, then like that falls under that purview.
No.
Like any amount of money.
I think people should be able to pay. Well, actually, I don't think people should be able to pay to get a head start, because that's capitalism and it's bad. But that's not what I'm arguing against here. I'm not saying that what I'm saying here is that it isn't that it's bad to pay more to have an early access. My point is, they should not be gating the access, because it's totally artificial. And the end of my argument and my ramble and my complaining here is that this is something that will literally not end. Because if we and it isn't going to end, because we are letting companies do this, there's no going back. The cat is out of the bag. But what's going to happen in a few years is that it's going to be super common for games to just cost a bunch of money on release, and they say, "Oh, it's not released; it's early access." Yeah, sure, it costs $200. Whatever, you get a bunch of cosmetics, and then they sell you the base game 2 weeks or 2 months after release, and they say, "Oh, that's the release." And then you get to buy the game on discount, because there's literally nothing impeding literally any company from doing this, because it's for one, as I said, it's totally artificial. It doesn't require infrastructure. It doesn't require like natural limitations of making games. It's just you literally saying the game costs a bunch of money if you want to play now, and in a couple of weeks it's not going to cost as much. And it could be Stardew Valley. It could be Star Wars. Whatever. You know what I mean?
Again, where is it? What is your? So what's the example of a game that you have that costs money, that costs more money and gives you early access, and that's it? Nothing else. You don't gain anything else from paying extra money except for early access. No cosmetics, no expansion pass, no nothing. Only early access. Because that's the thing, is that I
only have 3 examples in front of me. No, but you can't just because they give you it's an incentive. It's part of the deal. You don't sell early access.
Then that means you're not just selling early access. It needs to.
It doesn't matter though. It means the early access.
Does.
It does, because
there are other things.
It doesn't matter, because the early access is valued along with other things.
It's part of the endless pre-order creep, essentially. Is like the whole point of pre-orders is to try to get you the money out of you as much as they can, as soon as they can, hopefully without ever having you scrutinize the product in any real way. And so they want you to pay for the game before there's a chance to do that. And the reason why they bundle preemptively stuff like season passes into that now and try to get you to buy future DLC that might literally come out a year or two from now in some cases at the front, is because they're trying to get you to make even increasingly expensive, unscrupulous choices based on hype before the game even can launch. That, and like, because as we said before, like it's just known that like DLC and expansions sell way less well than the original game does. So if you can try to bundle it up with the original hype wave, that means that people will be spending $100 for a game they literally might not even beat, let alone be ready for any kind of DLC.
Yeah, and that's smart. That's really smart. You should be doing that. Like every video game should be doing that.
Financially, yes, it is in fact smart, yes, but that's not the argument being made.
That's why I'm saying the cat is out of the bag.
But like the thing is, like throwing in a few days of early access leads to like the FOMO, like a sort of emotional manipulation that gets people in where they're worried about being left behind.
I mean,
the whole point of that kind of interaction though is that it then it costs them basically nothing, but it can is a way of securing more sales towards this decision-making process. Like they're trying to make you more and more impulsive to spend more on a thing when you get basically nothing most of the time.
You get nothing, yeah, because that's it's worse to sell early access than it is to sell like a pre-order of the expansion. Because when you sell the ultimate edition of a game that has 2 expansions included, even though the expansions aren't out yet, you literally will have to make those expansions. You like as a company, you are going to have to invest in making those expansions. If you're selling early access, there's 0 costs.
I'm pretty sure that those expansions are probably like already being worked on. I'm imagining it's kind of a singular, like you don't stop making a
roadmap. Inside of the company to know what they're going to do next month or next year, whatever.
Yes,
that's just normal, right? But what I'm saying is the early access, it doesn't cost anything. Any game can sell that. So imagine, for example,
depends on the game. It's sure, but some games that is not true. No,
like for example,
if you have a game that's online, those servers cost money. Where is that money coming from? The ether. You need to pay for those servers to be up and running, and that comes from people paying for early access.
Yeah. I think, that's why I was saying. I think online games, particularly MMOs, that have, or not just MMOs, but games like I don't know, that shooter.
Any online
the buggy games. What are the games that help?
If you touch a server, you need to pay for that. It costs money.
But that's
to
why
do
I'm saying.
that.
I think it makes more sense to gate the access like that for games that have infrastructural investment than otherwise. But it is still very much the same thing in terms of how what players get out of it, because you don't actually get a better experience. You actually usually get a worse experience if you play on release than if you play 4 months down the line. Not all games are like that, but generally speaking, you're going to play a game, right? It doesn't matter when you play it. Multiplayer games are a little bit different in that regard. So it's a bit of a it's definitely different for certain games. But what I'm trying to say is, like, if like for example, to use my own personal experience, even though this what I'm complaining about isn't really about player behavior, it's about publisher behavior. But
I mean, it sounds like gamer behavior. It sounds like people are too stupid to know what a cost benefit is, and they like waste their money on shit that has no value. I resent the consumer. They're the reason that thing happens. This isn't happening because of like a fucking ghost whispering to goddamn Scrooge. This happens because consumer behavior. Like this is an obvious like
companies decide that it happens, and it will continue to happen.
And people follow through with it. People, they don't do it because it doesn't make money. They do it because it makes money. They do it because people are buying this shit. The gamers are the problem. You can't just absolve these dumb fuckers because they're like, oh, capitalism got me. Oh, I just don't understand how to have self-control. No, you stupid fuck.
It's mixed. Like you can't absolve gamers totally. Like I'll go on my rant periodically, but like I miss back when we were complaining about horse armor because things have gone so far from those days. But
do you remember when you bought Halo 2 and it came with a free early access play to to Gears of War? Do you remember that? Like that was a cool fucking mechanic that happened for a while. You bought a game.
I don't remember that. Well, it definitely wasn't Halo 2 because that was impossible.
Yeah, it was. It was Halo 2.
Halo 2 came out in 2004 before the 360 was out, so it couldn't have come with Gears
of War. It might have been
inverse.
I'm sorry. It might have been reverse. It might have been you buy Gears of War to get early access to Halo.
It might have been Halo 3.
But that was the thing.
Like Halo 2 was the Xbox game. It's the one that I played the most.
People used to buy a different game they didn't fucking want so they could play early access to a different game. That was shitty. That was really awful behavior. Yes. Like, that was bad. This is normal. It's fine to pay more money to get access to the same game
I think
early.
That's also
what the
just
fuck's
like,
wrong with
this
that?
game comes with a demo for another game, I think was the idea, but I don't remember.
Essentially, but it's a demo that...
But Andrew, that's why I'm saying you're saying it's fine to pay.
I didn't really get my thought out.
At least you get the game at the end. Like, fuck.
I'm just saying that like you can blame gamers to some extent, but part of the trick here is that most of these tactics cost almost nothing. So if they make like any return, boom, it's permanent now.
Yeah.
And it's like it's
yeah.
like
I mean,
the level of picket line you'd have to maintain to stop anyone from being dumb enough to buy these things is the struggle. Because like it's like I think one of the most probably one of the most expensive ones is the whole like battle pass / loot box thing that developers do. Like that actually requires a fair amount of like art department work, constantly crunching to keep making this like endless amount of content, even if it's like shallow content. But pretty much every other tactic that's come out, especially surrounding like special editions or pre-orders or microtransactions, and people complaining these used to be cheat codes, but now they're microtransactions. Like, well, yeah, because they cost nothing. They cost nothing to implement, so of course you just put them in there just to see who will pay $10 for them.
Making a big head is literally like just changing a slider. Like this isn't some like have to go through.
And like akin to that stuff, like this stuff is like it'd be basically impossible to have a level of discipline across the entire community that this would not be profitable, because you'd have to like, for the first time in history, have a human like society-wide boycott of something that actually worked. Like, because
no, I think legislation would work better than that. But
yes, that's the thing. That's what I was getting at. Is that like the real way that these things are usually defeated when they are determined to be unethical is that they need to be legislated. Like it needs to be like how Overwatch had to start exposing its stats about its loot boxes openly to certain countries and actually say what the chances of getting things were instead of what they do right now. Certain places, certain games in certain countries come under fire because like they're teaching children to gamble, essentially, which is across the whole industry is true of like loot boxes and so on, and it's part of why I think loot boxes were all kind of defeated, is that they saw the writing on the wall that they might become illegal. So game development all pushed towards battle passes next, because well, there's no gambling here, everybody. You get exactly what it says on the tin, except for that one time that Overwatch mislabeled all of the currencies in the thing, and it looked like you were gonna get the premium currency, and then you didn't. Whoops.
Yeah. Battle passes are a much better version of loot boxes, because you get to see what you're getting when you pay for it, and when you buy something, you can't really tangibly explain what the cost of the battle pass should be based on the things that you get, because all of it is fake.
But also battle passes are cursed and fucked up, and I hate them.
Sure, they're absolute boring, awful garbage.
At the very least,
I would much rather have them than loot boxes.
What I hate about battle passes is that you buy one, and now you're on the hook. You have to like fucking earn the product you bought. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be like, it's one thing to be like, I enjoy having a little treadmill to play on for the next month, and like, look at the stuff I'm getting. But like, if the battle pass expires and you paid for it, it should just give you the rest. You already bought it. Fuck you. You don't get to just keep the content I paid for.
No.
You don't get to just not give it to me. No. That's deeply fucked up. But no, I get it. I get it. They obscure it. It's a trick. You pay $10 and you get functionally nothing. You pay $10 for the access to the ability to
get a punch
earn via labor the content that's in the battle pass. And if you like miss out on it because you get busy or there's a death in the family or who the fuck knows, or you fucking get in a car crash or you just kind of get bored or another game comes out, fuck you. You don't get to actually have any of the stuff that it was in the thing that you bought. It just goes away. And you don't get it. So that now you
look.
they reintroduce FOMO into the game where like one, you have the FOMO element of, oh, this stuff's out and it has a time limit, you better buy the battle pass or it's going to go away forever. But then if you do buy the battle pass, you still have to earn it by playing the game continuously for weeks in order to actually get through the battle pass, or you just won't get the stuff you already paid for and it'll go away. It's like double cursed. I hate it so much.
So the problem I have is that battle passes, I don't like battle passes. I think battle passes are really bad. I agree with all of your stances, but they're good. Like, they are so good. They are very good for people who only buy one game and don't buy other games for long periods of time.
No, but that's battle bad, passes. Though.
What is bad? What, that people don't have fucking money to buy more games? Yeah, sure.
No, because they're spending it all on battle passes. It's bad because it trains people to play the one game. We sort of talked about
this. Yeah, but the battle pass is cheaper than a new game. The problem is that gaming.
Isn't.
Yes, it is. A battle pass is usually like $10 to $12 on average.
You can buy so many nice games for that price, or
no,
cheaper.
You could buy a bunch of indie fucking games with a goddamn like Russian roulette level quality to them, sure, but you cannot buy a AAA game for fucking $10 and play it for hundreds of hours. Like, if I bought, say, Overwatch, for example, and I'm gonna play Overwatch for a fucking 100 goddamn hours, it's nice that I can pay $10 and get a guaranteed amount of loot for the $10 when I'm already going to invest 100 fucking hours into the game. I will be playing it daily. I will be doing it like it's a fucking job. So I might as well get something bonus in reward for it. I don't want that personally. I don't want to play a game like that.
You're looking at it the other way around.
But I'm looking at it from from like a poor, shitty, like basically from a child perspective. A child who is not going to be buying a bunch of video games because they literally don't have the fucking money to, but they can afford a battle pass as a little treat because usually their allowance is probably around the cost of a battle pass or V-Bucks or whatever the fuck. But like, I get it. It makes sense. And it's great for a child because, again, it's accessible for them to get things and have something to do in the only game they're allowed to play for the next 6 months, essentially. But like, but as an adult, I think it's shit because I don't want to spend 100 hours on one game and then pay $20 or whatever to like fucking get an expansion for a game I don't really like or whatever. It's like, again, it's different. It's not for you. That's the problem. You're not the target demographic for this battle pass, and it means that the game itself isn't for you either if you don't want that kind of mechanic in the game. It sucks, but guess what? There's also 4 billion fucking games out. You can just not play this one stupid fucking game. Like, and it's mostly only AAA games that do it.
I don't buy Battle Pass, but I think you're looking at it from one perspective, but there's another side of the coin, which is that Battle Passes allow for games like Overwatch to be the one game that kids play or whatever. It doesn't have to be kids.
What's wrong with that?
Adults.
Why can't they just play one game? Because that's what they want to do.
That's bad for society in general because diversifying media consumption is a good thing. But
maybe you should focus more on the problem of the cost to make games, the cost to buy games.
There's no cost to make.
Find it.
No.
There
is
a cost to make games
because the games are made already. The games are made already. You can go and buy whatever game for the last decade and you can have a good experience, especially if you're on PC where you're going to be limited on graphics anyway. So playing, Dying Light 1 on maximum graphics is probably a better experience than playing Alan Wake 2 at 15 frames per second or whatever. So, but what I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to argue against what you just said because I think you're right in broad terms. I think you're right what you said about battle passes. But there's another side that is a little bit more perverse, which is that battle passes are what allows players like or games like Call of Duty or Overwatch to become the one game that people play. And Fortnite would probably be a better example because it is the game. But there's another perverse aspect to battle passes as well, and not just to battle passes, but to generally games that are microtransactions, basically, which is the incentives behind how you improve the game. And I'll just say this: I stopped playing Overwatch because of cheaters. I saw a lot of cheaters, and I didn't see Blizzard doing a lot to ban the cheaters and doing a lot to prevent them. But that wasn't the only reason why I stopped playing Overwatch. I stopped playing Overwatch because I saw the incentives that Blizzard has to maintain the free-to-play player base, which themselves are a huge part of where cheating happens, to maintain them as consumers of their game, because they buy battle passes. The cheaters buy battle pass, they buy loot boxes, they buy microtransactions, whatever they are. And that happens, if that happens in a single player game, it doesn't matter because they're cheaters, whatever. Cheating in single player is not cheating really. But in multiplayer, that fucks up everything. And that's why I stopped playing Overwatch, because I didn't see them ever address. And I keep following news about Overwatch, mostly just news. I don't watch much anymore, but I have not seen, since I stopped playing back in June, I've not seen people saying it's getting better. If anything, it seems to be getting worse. And the reason for that is precisely because of those incentives. As a company, you want to keep the paying customers as happy as possible, even if they're cheaters. It doesn't matter to you, right? I don't
think that's true.
Supposedly there was an update of them banning like thousands and thousands of cheaters.
Yeah,
but I don't know the details.
The way Blizzard does like long cheater stints. They go like 6 to 12 months without banning cheaters because they need to gather a lot of them to ensure that there isn't. They want to get as many people as possible using the one specific cheat that's out there, so then they can mass ban all of them and fix the cheat, right? You don't want to play an arms race of like knocking the cheat out as soon as it comes out, because then what happens is you end up getting to a point where they will get so far ahead of you that you're going to actually need to genuinely spend.
This is Andrew speaking as somebody who has cheated at Overwatch.
This is somebody. Yes, I have cheated at Overwatch. I can tell you, right? And I didn't get banned for it. And you want to fucking know why? Yeah. Because I know how to avoid that shit, because I know the way that they do this. Like you don't want to. When a cheat comes out, you want to use it day one. You want to use it day one for the next probably about 2 or 3 months. Don't ever use it again. Just get a small little hit from it and move on, because what they're doing is they're waiting until as many people get in there, and then they're going to add a program to do a mass check. Hey, is anybody doing this thing? Ban them immediately. And that's when the banning starts happening. So you don't want to ban people quickly.
Though? You know what they don't do and haven't done for 8 years or however long Overwatch has been out? Uh-huh. They don't auto-detect rage hacking. They don't auto-detect perfect tracking of players. Because that's how you know people are cheating. Oh, one of the ways. It's just like,
but that's not. You should not be ban people that way. You want to ban people. You want to ban the program. You want to ban the program that people are using, not ban the people that are cheating.
I don't care that people cheat as long as they.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't care.
You don't want to. The people don't matter. It's the program that matters. You want to ban the program that allows people to cheat.
As a player, I don't care that people cheat as long as they're not rage hacking. If they what
does that fucking mean? What do you mean as long as they're not rage hacking?
Rage hacking is just unfair and unfun to play against.
If you're going up against, say it with your fucking full chest. What does rage hacking mean? What are they doing when they're rage hacking?
Perfect tracking that's
just cheating. They're just using cheating.
Just cheating.
Yes,
that's not just cheating. That's way worse, because you can't counter that as a player.
What? That is what cheating is. Cheating allows you to see enemies through walls, allows you to perfect aim, allows you to track enemies.
Yeah, I'm confused by the I don't care if people cheat preemptive.
You're just mad when they do it.
Like, what does that mean?
All you're mad about is you're mad at the timing of someone cheating rather than like starting the game cheating. You're mad that they turned on the cheats later on.
No. Me going up against a player that has good aim and me going up against a player that is cheating to have the same amount of aim that a player that has good aim is the same thing. It's the same experience, right? It doesn't matter. Right? If it's a natural aim or if it's machine aim, it's fine. It's the same experience as a player, right?
I don't think so, but sure.
Of course it matters. How do you not, even the best players in the world cannot compete with that.
Yeah, what?
No, they
perfect
can't.
tracking is literally impossible to dodge.
The best players can feel worse because they're also good at the game, but they cannot compete with actual hack aiming.
I'm not. That's why I'm saying rage hacking is not. I think you're wrong in what you say. The only way to cheat
is rage hacking.
Again, it's perfect tracking and seeing through walls. Particularly, that's
cheating.
No, there's more cheating than that. There's, for example,
what does that mean?
Hitbox tracking. There's recoil compensation. There's movement hacks.
Yes.
And in macros. There's
this is all, by the way, cheating.
This is all cheating, but it feels the same as playing against a good player. You know what you see what I'm trying to say?
No, I don't think you're arguing that you don't like cheating. You don't want cheating.
No, I'm arguing that Blizzard should never ever allow any player to perfect track anybody, even if they're not cheating. If you do perfect tracking for a second, you're banned. That's it.
What?
That doesn't happen unless unless you're cheating. And it is.
No,
it doesn't.
So if someone has,
please, some kind of game development expert in the comments. Oh god, that's I've summoned all the liars. Someone free us from this conversation.
I didn't get to make my point though, but because you're asking for my point. But my point is this: what Blizzard does is it detects people who are cheating and bans them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what they don't do is they don't implement methods that are permanent in the game to detect people who are cheating. You know what I mean? You know what? You understand what I'm trying to say? Is what I'm saying is, if all of a sudden you use software that was used 5 years ago to cheat, you're not going to get banned. Even though there was a ban wave 5 years ago that banned that software. As long as that software works, you're not going to get banned because they're not looking out for that software anymore because nobody uses it, or probably because it was patched and it doesn't work. But what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of the cheating happens with like a lot of the detection, as far as I understand it anyway, happens with sort of data signatures, and like you start to see patterns in the data that players send back to the servers. And one ways they do that is they send like bait data, like instead of being packet loss. Imagine a game like Overwatch, you can have packet loss. Or packet loss is when your internet fails for like a microsecond and you don't even notice that the game had any problems, but somewhere somebody just got rubber banded a little bit or whatever. Just this for obviously you understand what it is, Andrew and Keith, but I'm just trying to keep the viewers
rubber band me. Ooh.
But what they do, one way of detecting cheating, it's not the only way, but one way of detecting cheating is to detect somebody who is suspicious, you're suspicious of cheating, and you send sort of a bait data, so that if people respond to that data, if the machine of the player responds to that data in a way that a cheat would do, they know they're cheating. That's one way of doing it. But those ways that they implement, they don't implement for the cheating event. They implement for the cheating programs that they use.
Yes.
And this happens across the board. It's not just Overwatch, but it happens across the board. They're more concerned with stopping the people who are making the cheats than they are with stopping the cheaters themselves or the people who use the cheats, which is fair. It's an understandable. It's an understandable approach. But for a player, as I was saying, I wasn't actually thinking about it before you asked. But my point is, I don't mind going up against somebody who can, like, for example, track me very nicely, or recoil. He's very good with recoil, and then, like Soldier 76 coming in, and he's like, he looks like a top 500 player on shooting. That's fine, because those people are already going to be matchmaked to be whatever matchmaking they are, whatever. That's fine, because it's a realistic kind of play. Somebody who is very good at recoil compensation, somebody who has very good movement, it's whatever. Somebody who can just do a 180 or 360 headshot or whatever without even hearing me and just automatically headshotting me as Widowmaker, that's not good. That's not like that's not the only way to counter that is to pick Diva or something and just go DM and everybody kill the cheater or whatever and just play completely different. So it's not the same kind of experience as playing against a good player, because they're not playing as a good player. They're playing as a machine.
I mean, the argument you're making right now is basically, I prefer getting a cold over the flu. And yes, I agree. I think it's much better to experience a cheater who just emulates being a really good player rather than a cheater who is breaking the flow of the game. Like,
but that's what I'm saying. It's not a cold. I go up against a really good player. I have fun. I go up against a cheater who plays like a very good player. I have fun as well. Right? It's the game. I'm sure I'm dying, whatever. Yeah. But I have fun, right? But if I go against a Widow that headshots the whole team in 2 seconds because they're just rage hacking, that's, for one, that's very noticeable to everybody. So the game could be programmed to basically ban anybody that does that. Just ban immediately. If you shoot everybody in the middle of their head immediately with perfect movement, like, that's mathematically provable because it's so obvious that it's cheats when that happens, and that's the sort of cheats that are a problem. Not
no, all cheats are a problem. Let's just on the full board here. All cheats. No, not sure. All cheats are a problem. If you are cheating in a multiplayer game that is based on skill and competition, cheating is bad. You are cheating, and that is bad. It does not matter. If your normal skill is not that of a top 500 player and you emulate that, you're a piece of shit, and that's bad. Because what you're doing is you're doing that in an MMR where you don't belong. You are making the experience for other people who are trying their damnedest a lot worse, because now you are emulating yourself to be because you don't belong in that MMR. If you are fucking playing with silvers and you're playing like your top 500, what the actual fuck?
No, but you
that experience is bad. Like,
but you play like you do.
No, what?
Yeah, no, yeah. That was the example, right? Wasn't that the example?
So you're saying it's totally fine for people to cheat as long as they're emulating on the level that they're playing against. Like, I'm not gonna have perfect aim. I'm gonna have gold level aim.
I just want to point out to all of our fans at home, neither of these people have played Overwatch for months.
I don't need to play Overwatch because guess what? Overwatch hasn't changed for a year.
There's such an infinite Overwatch brain rot that these neither of them are playing the game anymore, and this whole thing's happening right now. It's very funny.
All I'm doing
just take a moment to realize that.
I'm just trying to make the point make sense within the context of what he's talking about. I would not bring up Overwatch as an example. There are plenty of other. I would, if anything, I would probably say. I would say MMOs are like the most tragic with this, because MMOs are literally like a hellscape. You're just like pressing a bunch of numbers at the exact right time constantly is just fucking hell to play in like PvP or just any kind of experience.
Oh, there's so much cheating in MMOs.
Yeah, it's awful. It sucks.
Including like sanctioned cheating, like cheating that Blizzard seems to be fine with, like multi-boxing and stuff, but it's like,
oh yeah,
it's like torture to be like I would get to a later zone in like 2 expansions ago, that like the Atlantis level or whatever that the Worgen fell into in the cutscene, and I was there like out of step with everybody else because I was like late to the expansion, just kind of leveling and exploring as my little goblin rogue. A fucking just 75 fucking flying form druids would all just appear at once in a giant blob and just mass mine the same node, because if they do it all at the same time, they all get credit for it. And then they just be like systematically clearing out the entire zone of all resources over and over again. I'm trying to level like herbalism or whatever I had, and I can't get like a single one, but he's getting like 75 copies of every herb all at once and single-handedly like overrunning the entire, like that entire server's fucking economy probably on herbs. So like not only does he flood it with infinite resources, but also like I both can't get the resources myself and can't make money off of them because he's controlling the entire market, because he has 75 separate instances of WoW running because the game costs nothing to run on your computer anymore, resource wise, and he's just like a tycoon. And I'm like, I just want to play the video game, Mr. Blizzard. Why is this a thing that's allowed to happen? Surely you can tell this is happening. So but I think they just let multi-boxing happen. I think they just like they're fine with it.
Botting is weird. Botting is like a, how do you describe this? Like if there's sight of present human activity, it's not bad, and there is almost a mechanical repetition to what they're doing, which is to like flying to the zone or whatever. But I believe what gets them away with it is that the flying is human. Like they mechanically mine at the same time, but their flight path is human.
Well, I think a person is playing the game the whole time, but while they're doing it, it's like
that's
fucking
totally fine.
It's essentially like using like a macro of some kind to like tell all the other characters to do the thing. But it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, I don't even get to play the game because of this person.
So I agree with you. That is an instance of bad policy, because that person isn't cheating. They are just min-maxing in a degree that is literally and at
ruins
odds
the fun
with
for other people that are playing in this the consistent world that exists that everyone else has to live in.
So that's not. I would consider that. I wouldn't consider that cheating. I would consider that just bad policy on WoW's part. I think WoW needs to be a little bit more stringent with how they handle that kind of thing. Like if there is obvious, I don't know, like maybe
it's like the time we played. It's like the time we went back and we played. We played WoW Classic together, and we briefly were in a party with somebody, and we just like and I think I just opened the chest when I saw it and didn't think about it, because one, nowadays like rolling is automatic but everything, but it's also like I forgot there's so much ritual to old MMO gameplay, because there's so much like mutual suffering built into the genre that there's etiquette built into every single like activity that you can do. And so like you roll to see who gets to loot the chest in your party, and whenever you find a chest in like the open world, and like there's all these like little like social dynamics to playing this very crunchy, time-consuming, community-based MMO. And in their pursuit of endless streamlining and matchmaking services and making it so you never have to talk to other people to play the game, World of Warcraft has streamlined all of the etiquette and community out of its game. And so when I went back to retail, when I went back to Classic, I didn't know what was expected of me. Like suddenly I'm like, oh fuck. Like I remember, like it came back to me all at once. I was like, oh, I remember having to do that before. I remember that there used to be like correct ways to behave, and that hasn't been applicable forever, because nowadays you just solo grind your quests, or you matchmake into dungeons that are completely frictionless and take no struggle. There is no like rhythm of like, pull this mob, everyone has to eat and drink now, everyone be careful. It's like your tank is just chain pulling half the dungeon and hoping everyone pays attention, and everyone's like getting faster on a level where like that's just like an expected way of playing. So if you're not ready to keep up with it, then get out of the game, loser. It's like a hot, and it made me realize that I miss it, because like it's like the current game feels like hostile by comparison. It's like unpleasant.
For the folks at home, you can do that with a lot of things in your life. Like think back to things a couple of years ago, and you'll see that exact kind of degradation pipeline happening in a lot of ways, in a lot of things. It's very funny. WoW is definitely such a good example of that. I do very distinctly remember doing the rolls for chests.
Yeah, it was a very different community-based experience than it is now. It's very interesting to unpack that. And it's like a thing where it's like, at the same time, like I don't think you can bring it back. Like I don't think.
No.
You can, but you have to treat it at like a little bit like alienation, or like a. I suppose alienation is the best term, but
I'm just saying, like, I'm saying, like, in World of Warcraft, I don't think you can bring it back, because even if you're it's welcome back to the classic version of the game, you're still bringing all the current players there, and they've all shifted.
Yeah,
like Dan Elson has a whole video about. Dan Elson has a really good video about World of Warcraft, like why it's rude to suck at WoW. And it's a very interesting breakdown about how like the people who play these games have permanently changed the game. So like, because like there's this whole thing about classic WoW and how it's going to change things by bringing back what people remember from back in the day, but it very obviously isn't classic WoW. Like the code is classic WoW mostly, but the players aren't. Like the thought bottification of WoW never went away. Even if modern WoW players don't remember what thoughtbot even is, because they've been using WoWhead for all this time now. But like the endless optimization and finding the correct answers for everything and streamlining all of the variability and fun and expression out of the game, and with it the etiquette and the community, all in favor of just becoming mathematically optimized essentially in all of your gameplay, has fundamentally gotten rid of that version of the experience, and the players are cooked. Like they're never gonna be uncooked, so that's just how they're gonna be forever in that community. You'd have to start over somehow in a different way.
Maybe in a different game almost.
No, because it's an industry-wide problem as well. It's not just about the game itself. It's the whole meta, the whole looking for a meta of optimizing any system as fast as you can, because that is the competition. And even if it is a cooperative kind of experience, it's still a competitive cooperative experience, because there's teammates that are better than other teammates, so you're still competing. But it's an industry-wide issue. Is the games are made for people to search for the optimal way of playing them, and once you solve the optimal way, you finish the game. But that's not sustainable.
The old ways were bad in their own ways, because I had the experience of finally hitting max level in the year before Burning Crusade came out, and the fucking guilds are cartels. Like, you can't break into this stuff. They socially control the entire game functionally on your server. Like, you can't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Like, in the old day, you would hit max level and then you would just be socially ostracized from the game and all the steps for going forward through it, because all of the people that can play the end game content have their own niche communities and are closed off, and you can't figure out how to play the game. Like, you're like, how do I continue? Like, no one will let me access the next part of the game because you need the other people to do it. So there was upsides and downsides to it all. But yeah, like, it's the community itself can't really be uncooked from the thing. I think about this a lot sometimes, about how the very platforms that things exist on recondition the behaviors of the people that play the thing and change their values in subtle ways that are hard to follow. Like, this is what, to continue a thought I had earlier about battle passes. One of the things I hate about battle passes is that it's the final form in many ways of all these monetization strategies, because all these other ways were like, how do I continue to nickel and dime people into buying things more? We'll make expansions, we'll make cosmetics, and at least it used to be more honest when you just bought a thing for the price that was said and it had the thing in it. Then loot boxes were like, but what if we had a randomized chance of maybe getting what you want? We can trick them into doing quarter machines, basically. And then you get to battle passes, and now it's like, okay, well, the gambling thing's kind of illegal, maybe, so let's try this new thing where we FOMO people and we condition them. And the reason why battle passes work the way they do, where you have to earn the contents in them, is because they're trying to condition you to play the game more, whether or not you actually specifically want to, which is akin to also how World of Warcraft and so on added their daily quests and stuff like that. And that's its own thing of how do we lazily get them to keep playing the same game. And those get more robust as you go on, but that doesn't make the system better. Because even in the most recent expansions, what they do with every new you can break down each expansion into the launch expansion, and then each of the 3 major patches that happen afterwards that come with a new raid and boss and everything. And each of those usually comes with a new PvE zone that is the new grinding place, essentially. It has a new faction with a new reputation and a new series of daily quests, and those are getting much more robust and interesting, and that you now get a different grouping of quests every day, so it's a different adventure every day. And which stupid minigame do I have to play this time? Is the one where I play DDR on the back of a dragon? Whoa. And it takes at least a week or 2 to start seeing the repetition of having the same quests repeat, as opposed to in Burning Crusade, it was here's one quest, do it every day. Wow, you're honored. Now you get 2 quests, do them every day. And it's the same ones every single day. That was insane that I did that as because I wanted a fucking mount. I played the game every day for months to unlock a stupid Nether Ray mount, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Gross. The stupid Nether Drake. I even unlocked it again for nostalgic reasons for some reason when I was re-leveling my new character. While I was leveling my rogue, I was still checking in on the Nether Drake area and getting eggs, which is easier when no one's there, because you get all the rare eggs that used to be a impossibly rare bonus amount of experience. Now you can just farm them like they're iron. They're just all over the place, and you just do laps. But it's all about conditioning players to do the behaviors you want to. And on one hand, it's interesting when it's you're causing social etiquette dynamics to come out, because it's a game about socialization on some level. But it's another thing when you're just using these mechanics and systems and incentives to create behaviors in your players that just exist for profit, and how communities form around that. And this to pull back the curtain a little bit, this gets at larger elements of social media Like, this is a part of so much of our life, is that so much of our life is platforms that try to condition our behaviors, TikTok, Twitter, and so on. And they want us to behave in certain ways that are profitable to them. And they're really good at conditioning that. Like, it's upsetting when you think about how much over the decades tastes on YouTube have changed, but not because audiences change their taste necessarily, but because YouTube can just push a lever on the algorithm and functionally delete a genre of video. And like, not literally delete it, it'll be there, but like overnight, just like animations will just stop functioning as a successful YouTube thing. Like, they'll go viral every day. Everyone loves animations in 2008, but then in 2010, animations are dead now, and Let's Plays are king because they're long form content. And nowadays, it's almost always like drama and outrage content. It's like they reward certain behaviors and emotions and format lengths and so on that taste make for people. Like, people want to think that they have their own distinct personality and that they have exact things that they like and don't like, and that they're in control of their own world there. But I think increasingly people aren't, and their taste is made for them by the format that they have. And this is going back to like this is some toaster core preaching here, but like, this is why the older crunchier internet is very nice in a lot of ways, that you had to find stuff on your own. And you very much, like, there's still taste making, because like, you'd find communities and those people would dictate things, or the people you happened to meet would potentially dictate things, much like how your parents do and so on like that. But like, as an example, furries used to be really weird. Like, I know that furries are getting more popular and like less confusing, and people are like, it's just some people in animal costumes, why do you care? And that's true. But also, furries were literally weirder before than they are now. And that's like a very like furries have been algorithmically pushed to condense more in the direction of like Junior Esquire abs pinups. Like, there's a very specific format of extremely like
commercially viable furries.
Yeah, like commercially viable furries. Like, it's a specific format of like, this is the most algorithm pleasing format. This is the specific format of furry porn that won't get like algorithmically blocked, essentially, because it'll be the type that does well on YouTube, which means that'll be the type that people see. That'll be the type that people like. And also awesome. I'm a furry YouTuber on some level, and like, there are a number of furry YouTubers, and all the furry YouTubers have to toe the line and act within a specific range of behaviors. And it's very weird to think about, because like, furries were so kink forward before, and it's not gone completely, but it's not like, it doesn't get around algorithmically that much, like, unless you're into feet or something. Like, there's a lot of, but like you know what I mean, like,
stain. Jesus, guys, I'm sorry if you like the feet.
I'm not making fun of feet. It's just really normal.
Yeah,
but like, I know, it's just like, you know what I mean, like, furries are particularly known for like their cartoonish kinks, like completely nonsense things that are like completely impossible and insane things,
and stuff like that.
Fucking the number of people that are just so into all of the imaginative things that Venom could do to you, which is like, holy fuck, like the list of kinks related to Venom are like longer than the credits at the end of Marvel movies. Just an entire,
that's not true,
orbital. But like, it's but back in the day, you had like a handful of furry websites like Yifstar, which was really what it was called. It was renamed to So Furry, but I remember when it was called Yifstar, which is fucking hilarious. What a fucking name to give a website. Fur Affinity's still around somehow, after like 2 decades or something. Fucking Eka's Portal and some other places. Like, there's like a bunch of other websites that are like, it was like image boards. It was like, in fact, some of them were chans. Like, there were furry like chan boards that weren't like, they weren't derivative of 4chan, like,
they weren't attached
directly,
to the chans,
but they were using the same infrastructure the way that people would use like BB code forums and so on. PHP forums, it's like the way that there was a template for forums, there was like a chan template for like image sharing boards for furries, and there was like several of those.
Correct. That's how the other chans existed.
There was one Chan template, and then the other Chans took that template.
And those were it was such a different era, essentially. Whereas nowadays, so much of furry is just on X/Twitter, and that's just where it lives now. And that means you're giving into the algorithm, and you're being moderated on who gets exposure and who doesn't in an inorganic way. Like it's not just word of mouth. Like it used to be.
They have a phrase for this, don't they? Isn't there like a word that they like call the perfect immigrant or something like that? Or like there's a
that sounds like something else.
No, it's bad. It's like the idea is that there is a force outside of your control, your group control, that is dictating what society will tolerate as an acceptable version of yourself. So like you would like women would have this, right? There's an expectation of what a woman is. That's not but a woman's just a person. So they should be expected to be like people. But there's an incorrect perception or a bubble you put over and say like, this is what the ideal or the perfect person of that should be. But there's never a perfect version of the group that's dictating that perfection. And that's what algorithms on YouTube feel like, is that someone outside of the control of the creators is like putting a hand down and saying like, actually, this is the right type of person. I don't want any of these other types around. And you kind of like dictate that by the choice of what people have access to seeing. So if you make it illegal for women to read and you hide all the women that can read, your only perception of women are women that can't read. And so you would think like that's normal, right? Like women can't read. But it's like, no, it's because all the women who can read got locked up. But like you just like they're out of your view. You don't see them, so you don't consider them part of the norm or the general whole.
I'm just afraid. I'm afraid to like touch this language.
I don't.
It feels like it's
where Andrew's coming from.
It just feels loaded.
It's not perfect. It's not perfect as in like this is good. It's perfect as in like that. It's like it's ironic perfect. Like it's bad. This is not. It's idealized.
You know,
right?
I get that. No, I just mean like it feels like we're in a territory where I wouldn't want to like. It's like it's akin to like this bad thing that happened to me is just like what happened in World War II.
No.
That's what I mean.
That's why I said it's like that. It sounds it sounds similar to that idea of like, oh, there's some kind of force that is it's not the same, right? That is actually a maliciously done thing. I am saying that the algorithm is inadvertently doing that. It is not sitting there with malice in its heart. It is just literally robotically
it doesn't exist. I mean, it exists, but
it doesn't exist. But it doesn't think. So it's unintentionally, but by design, like by it's designed by people with those biases, right? They have a bias in mind, but not specifically targeting furries. They're not saying like, oh, I'm specifically making furries like this. They have a bias in mind, and furries that go outside of that bias just happen to get culled. And so like they're just being homogenized, right? They're just being like brought into the fold of like normality. Well, like straight people, furries, all of you should act one particular way, whatever the algorithm thinks. Doesn't matter who you are. Animation, one way. You need to make drama content as an animator. And you're like, no, why would I do that? It's like, because that's what I want. Like, it's that kind of thing of like, it's
time to become a story time animator.
Yeah, that's literally the thing. It's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you can make animations on YouTube. You just can't make fun animation.
So this is not me dissing on Junior Esquire or Storytime animators or any of these people. It's just I'm just saying that like
it's a fight against you.
I'm just saying that because there are people who just willingly make the thing that they want to make, but there's also people that
absolutely.
But like it's not about like necessarily forcing creators to do a particular thing. It's rewarding specific ones. And choosing those people to be the most agreeable people, and then those are the ones that are served to people, and because that's what's available, that's what becomes taste making. It's like when you have the massive era of Marvel, you now have people that just expect Marvel, and they don't expect like other kinds of movies and the greater variety of things that like used to be around more. Like you taste make by controlling what's the options in the first place, and like that's just a whole element to unpack.
I agree with you, and I think I just think it's funny to see it in a techno road format.
You say that it's happening more and more, but I think this has always happened. And if anything, it's happening
societally. You mean like just as a whole?
Societally, I mean societally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Societally, but I think it's happening less because not less intensively, but it's in broader or rather, there's more boxes, right? And back in the day, there would be fewer boxes, and people would still be, or tastes would still be tailored towards whatever was the taste of the day, as it were. And in fewer boxes than there are right now. Right now, you have more boxes, and it happens as you're saying. I agree. I very much agree with you in both of you guys' perspective. I think Andrew raises an interesting sort of parallel, which is the sort of idealization of marginalized groups in sort of how those that builds pressure on them. I don't know to what extent it's a perfect parallel, but it's interesting because I see social media, or the history of social media, as having gone through sort of when it started, and the algorithm was a little bit less based on all the knowledge that these companies have built over the last 10 or so years, or the last 10 or 15 years. The algorithm was more or less just sort of like free for all. And so if you opened a Facebook page, it didn't really matter in terms of, you know, your attitude or your presentation. It was really all about the numbers at the end of the day. You know, if advertiser didn't personally like your page, tough, it doesn't matter. That's the social media website was there to sort of broadcast the messages of these random people, because they would be sort of the creme de la creme sort of thing. The people who the Facebook pages that rose to the top were the ones that best fit the algorithm that existed, but it was a little bit more free for all. And what has happened in all social media websites is that everything is tailor-made now. Everything is on purpose. Like, and you see that even with Twitter, where it's tailor-made to be just Nazis, but you know, YouTube also has, it's tailor-made to be, you know, try to push as many as many shorts as possible, channels that have good synergy with shorts, for example, or just channels that work well with advertisers, or even the types of videos that we make these days. The types of videos that we see these days tend to be like, they're related
just watch
to
the
each other.
decisions that are being made by everybody. Like, everybody that used to make 10-minute video essays is now making 3-hour video essays.
Correct. But also they're related to each other in very
Except
specific
every
ways.
frame of planning, which came back last week out of nowhere. It made a 4-minute video, I think. You're like, what?
I don't know.
Every frame of painting. It's like the most influential video essay channel. Yeah. But they disappeared like 8 years ago.
Oh, that's why I don't know. Yeah. Wow, that's a long hiatus. What the heck?
Yeah, they just stopped. They're like, we're done.
He had things to do.
Yeah. But I think they went off and made a whole show about this kind of stuff, though. And then they also like are now suddenly back with a new video, so they must be back for some stint. And seeing the old format is shocking, because like even people like Folding Ideas that used to do their like 100 episodes of being a puppet for 10 minutes now makes like these monstrously long videos about like the Mickelson twins or whatever.
It's interesting to see where you tend to find long form journalism now. I think it's very funny that there's such a not great diversion away from traditional sources of that type of journalism. It's more niche, right? A lot of it tends to, like, the WoW video is such a good example of someone like doing a lot of legwork and groundwork, taking a lot of personal experience and merging it together to make a genuine what's the word I'm looking for? A genuine view? No, not a view. A
format?
I can't think of the word now. Not a format. It's like they're like pointing at something and going like, I can prove that this is a thing that's changing. Like I've been here. I can see argument. It. Here's numbers to back it up. Not just an argument though. Like,
it's a documentary.
They're uncovering a piece of society, like a piece of social society, and saying like, look at this. This is a thing that's changed. Uncovering. There you go. They're like uncovering a thing that otherwise would just stay as a dormant afterthought to people's mind. You know, people just say like I guess that's the way it is. But you don't. That's not something you tend to find too much anymore, except on the sphere of YouTube. It's like with video essays now. That's kind of
replace that. That's what you expect. You expect those 3 hours long deep dives into a niche thing that you want to find out more information about.
It's funny that we're talking about this big long format videos, and I'm looking at my YouTube front page, and without having to scroll very much at all, I see 3 different channels that I've never watched never watched and don't recognize, with very few views. One of them is 1.5K. One of them is 430K. So those small channels that YouTube has been doing that to me, I think it has been doing to other people as well. 5 hours, 3 hours. These are just, YouTube is like, go watch this channel that doesn't have any views. They need them.
Mm-hmm. They win.
And I keep my front page pre-trimmed. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think YouTube is pushing a lot of long format videos. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing right now. But it's just fun to, for me, it's fun to think about the idea that that just is happening. Like there is just an invisible weighted hand changing the way that even something as mundane as like a niche fandom is moving, because its only exposure is through a source that has an invisible hand in the first place. Whereas going to like a niche PHPB forum or like even a Discord.
No, it's a whole thing. Like in the furry fandom, like multiple times a year now, the record is set again for largest furry convention. Like it is an astonishingly huge thing, because that's the power of being algorithmically driven. Is you're like, oh, MFF was the biggest furry convention ever, and then like a few months later, for fucking Free Weekend Atlanta is immediately the biggest convention ever, and then right after that, fucking Anthrocon, biggest convention ever. It just keeps fucking happening. Like when I was at Anthrocon this year, the fucking fursuit parade, which is entirely unique like individuals that are going through once in a unique fursuit that costs thousands of dollars to get or hundreds of hours to make. The parade was 2 hours long.
Holy shit!
Yes, at one convention. You can look up videos of the Anthrocon furry parade, the fursuit parade, and it's just 2 hours of completely unique, insanely detailed suits just going end to end, all in one big line. And they're not like
fursuit makers are
just
not like
really spaced out. Like they're just going. And like the level of like overall, like backlogged work that had to take over the course of years to build up that kind of critical mass, let alone for them all to be at the same convention, is insane. That's the power of like your fandom being picked up by the algorithm essentially, and being able to like find people in that kind of way. But it is people finding each other in like increasingly like inorganic ways. They're being told who to see and stuff's being put on their front page, and like that's a lot of how that stuff is met, is those connections are formed, and they're good connections for a lot of people, and that they're not like obviously not anti the modern furry fandom. I'm engaging with it actively, but it is it's eerie to think about how much our interactions and who we meet and so on are moderated by a third party that you can't reason with or understand. And it is just
or know what their intentions are. You don't know what their values are, why they believe the way they believe, and things like that.
Yeah, and like the algorithms are just all over the place, and like people did not make the jump. Like I think it was my at Astro video, I talked about a bunch of like old time furry creators that were really influential and so on, and like if you talk to furry artists and so on, like they know who Leafy Du Bois is, they know who they know about Raccoony, they know about Furpiled and a bunch of these old comics, because that was like the stuff you could find back then, back in the day when we had 2 channels. They're like back when we had 2 webcomic websites that we refreshed over and over again, hoping to get an update. Now none of all those people have
could just check their Twitter and find out that they're just like dead or something.
Or just not wait, or they would post to Twitter and not get seen at all. But like all those people have like 2,000 followers. Like your favorite furry artist would break down and cry if they got art from one of these people, but also they have 0 following whatsoever in the modern internet, because they just aren't picked up by it in the same way, and they've been left behind in a certain way. It's very interesting to think about how that stuff goes.
That's wild.
But specifically in the world of a fandom that is so focused on queerness and kink and other strange elements that are like less palatable, it's very noticeable how much entire elements of it get left behind in these spaces and aren't able to get the same kind of reach, which leads to fewer people being interested in those things proportionally than before, and it becoming more and more about kind of like the same handful of pinups over and over again. Like right now, the safest thing you can do in the furry fandom is just have a guy with his arms raised, because Pits, and people are very happy with Pits, but it's also like kind of like the mascot for like incredibly palatable, safe things, because here is a thing that people get horny about, but it's just normal human body stuff that doesn't even read as like a horny thing to passersby, because it's literally just armpits. Like it's so safe that you can post it on basically anything. So it's like it's TikTok safe.
I mean, like every website allows Twitter armpits. Safe.
Yeah, like I don't think anyone's, like, even Hassan was like, you like this, you sluts, you fucking weirdos, in some recent viral, not recent, it's probably like 6 months old now, but some viral moment that happened with him, because he was showing Pits to taunt people at some point. And it's like it's just a very specific thing. And it's like, it's just interesting to look at those elements. Cause like, I get to deal with being in the extra weird space where it's like, I have like front-facing, sort of risque, like furry-themed social media accounts on Blue Sky and Twitter, but then I have like, fuck it, let's just do adult content for funsies, account that's not linked anywhere on Twitter. That's not that hard to find, but I just don't link it anywhere directly because I don't want to get banned for directly linking people from like YouTube to adult content, obviously.
Yeah.
And then my Fur Affinity also just has adult content on it, and I literally don't even question what I post there. I'm just like, fuck it, I just put whatever on here. You literally have to like make an account and opt into adult content to even see it here. So fucking dead dove inside, do not eat. You did it to yourself at that point, as opposed to the algorithm where it's like it's served up and you have to worry about your brand and your image and so on. But like as YouTubers, it's interesting to see what people do with furry, because like I know so many artists that I've seen the shit they draw and they're very imaginative, but then they go on YouTube and they do like wolf husband tier list and like really like they do like the most like template following generic things, because like they obviously can't be a furry on YouTube for the most part. So like half of all furry content is people browsing furry IRL, the subreddit or something, and just like reacting to memes, and there's like speed paint and dancing videos, fursuit dances, and that's like most of what you can do basically, which is like not representative of the furry fandom. Not that any of these people aren't themselves like within that, but like, and that these behaviors aren't within that, but it's not even close to like a collective representation of what this community means. But the only way you can represent most of what the community has and does is by basically making a video essay about it, discussing it in only verbal terms, because everything else is like off the table for platforms like this. Like you can't include those kinds of things essentially. So it's interesting to see, like, and it leads to a particular strange element of like, have you ever seen that comic about the bear that's like the kink bear? It's like a normal bear. It's like an old timey look, not old timey. It's just like it's like a very like newspaper comic with like somebody putting a word over the newspaper comic to say, this is what I mean by it now, like changing the meaning of the newspaper comic. There's an old bear that's in the middle of the woods, but then the woods get chopped down, and then society's built up there, and there's buildings and stores and stuff like that. And then somebody goes, eek, a bear, and he's like, but I was always here. People apply that where they just draw kink, they just write the word kink on the bear, and they apply that to, for example, pride events, and how like it was originally about that kind of concept to begin with, but as it gets more and more corporate and sanitized, it's supposed to be, people treat it like it's supposed to be Disneyland or something, and then they go kink at the pride event. And in a similar way, there's an element to that with furry, where people are aghast at kinks in the furry fandom because they're so used to the Twitter and YouTube and TikTok version of the fandom that they don't even know like the history even as recent as 5 years ago of what things were like within the same community, and they'll even go so far as like to call out things that they just personally don't like or aren't exposed to before, as if it's like a moral transgression. And it's like, oh boy, buddy, pal, that's literally the whole point of the thing that you joined, is not to do exactly that, because that's exactly the bad thing to do, is to be acting that way and like shaming people for that kind of stuff in this specific community that's basically made for that kind of thing. It's just I don't it stresses me out because I do YouTube for a living, so I think about this stuff all the time. But like these platforms decide what we like and what our values are to a degree that we aren't conscious of fully, and it's
well, like, that's why who was it that said the platform is the message? It is related to that a little bit as well. The medium is the message. The medium is the message. Who was it? Was it Chomsky or
maybe? I don't remember.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, I don't think Chomsky had a Twitter account.
The mediums don't want me to know that, so
I can look it up very quickly. But the point is that the it's tricky to see why the medium is the message when it's about interpersonal communication. But the moment you start to, because if it's just about you calling your mom, it's obviously the message isn't, oh, I'm calling you on the phone. It's whatever you're saying, right? But the moment you start to make art and you start to make sort of societal, cultural, impactful things, then yeah, the medium is always going to shape the message in a very dramatic way. I don't think it's possible to not do that, though. I know what you're saying is it can be a problem, and it is a problem. But it is. It's just always going to be
an issue. It's more of an issue with transparency and objectives. Like people need to be made aware of what a group exists for and why it exists, and when you come in, you're agreeing to that stuff.
No. Like, but that's the thing. Because if you join the furry fandom and you find for affinity and you browse around and you're just, oh, I'm a furry. This is what I see the fandom as, and this is what I relate to. You're gonna have a very different experience than if you join the furry fandom by finding them on Twitter and be like, oh yeah, well, yeah, I like this stuff, I'm a furry. And then that's the sort of clash that Keith is talking about, is when you do find out about all the
and I guess you are always the context will always shape it, but I think that it's obviously worse for it to be shaped in favor of like corporate interest and audience conditioning, as opposed to it being shaped by, here's just a place you can check out if you want, which is how the old internet largely functioned.
Yeah.
It's like yes,
I think that's how it should be.
People were affected by the platform before, but it was just a place you could just browse. Like I do still remember when, like, the quaint thing about Fur Affinity is that it is still chronological and tagged like DeviantArt used to be. It just never got updated. And in many, like, there are ways that Fur Affinity could be updated for. Sort by what?
By score.
I don't even remember there being scores on.
But either way, it's still like by default.
No, on Fur Affinity, I mean.
Score?
Yeah.
What are scores?
No.
There's no scores. Why that's gross that you'd be able to score someone's art. That's a fucked up feature. That should never exist on an art site. You should not be able to rate. You should not be able to rate people's art.
But
I don't know. This art's kind of shit. Giving it a 2.
The site. I'm thinking of the site, not the.
I think when you search or browse the options, you can search. Like if you type in tags or whatever, you can sort by relevancy, which is them trying to find the most correct tag results, or you can sort by like date uploaded, or I think popularity, which would just be the raw view numbers, which themselves aren't algorithmically driven, but they might be somewhat corrupted by the existence of a popularity sorting option. But there's no like scores. That'd be gross. I give this a 2. Bye. You just feel bad about your art now.
Well, you can't just call it popularity and say, oh, it's not a score, it's a popularity. It's still a score.
It's not a score.
It is popularity. Well, I'm
it's
saying
just viewership numbers or favorite numbers. Like it's not views. A score. A score is gross because that means you can negatively rate something.
I'm saying score because that's the Borrow style sorting, which is exactly the same as for Affinity.
Score has an implication that there can be 0 and 100. And
the absurdity of the furry
has a
fandom
value that's less than 100, which is not true. Art is always at 100% value.
The absurdity of the density of the furry fandom is that so Colonel just posted a video of the 2-hour fursuit parade, and I recognize the person in the thumbnail. And even though it looks like just a random moment, no, that's Ron O'Yean. He's a streamer, and it's specifically him in his death mask, as in the one from Puss in Boots.
Just calling him out.
He has a fursuit head. He wants to be called out. To be clear.
Wow. Do you hear that? Whatever your name was, I forgot it. Did you want to be called out?
No, he's a guy. He works out on stream. That's his thing. He plays video games and works out and alternates between those two things while then directing people to his OnlyFans. So he would love to be called out.
Marketing.
Yeah.
I wish I had that confidence.
No, it's an insane level of confidence. Like he's literally just working out and playing like Fortnite and stuff and alternating back and forth. Like he's cooling down by playing video games and then working out on camera. And then just be like, and if you want to see more, this is like the suggested thing. I don't know if he links it anywhere on his actual Twitch. It's just that there's just an obvious like.
If you know, you know.
It's not even that much. If you know, you know. I think it's just that if you continually, like follow him on additional the more engaged you are, the more likely you are to like follow on Twitter and so on. And then you'll just immediately like be like, oh, I get it. I see what's happening here.
I don't know. I think if you work out on Twitch, I'm confident you have an OnlyFans.
But no, the video, the video is 2 hours long. There it is.
2 hour? What the fuck? That's
I even know where I was in relation to the camera angle, but I was not in the shot. That was just.
And I mean, that's just going to keep growing, watching. Right? Like 2 hours is
that's its own thing. Oh wow! Every time I click somewhere else in this fucking video, I see another person that I know.
Nice.
I randomly clicked and I saw Foster, the dancer that I featured in my video essay, and then I clicked somewhere else and I saw Vent Kazamaro, somebody who I met in person in MFF. Like it's absurd that it's that many people, but also you just know someone if you've just gone to these. I didn't even know some of these people were there. All right. So there's that's actually a debate.
Stay and watch the whole 2 hour fucking parade?
I did. It's just a long time. It's a long time to remember everything that's happening. So that's actually a point of contention in the furry fandom is that these conventions are getting too big for their venues. Like they're incredibly packed.
That's
and
normal.
Like we're like descending like locusts upon all of the eateries and all of the hotels are
probably great.
All of the actual like venue hotels are packed out, so people then have to go to other hotels and like walk or drive in increasingly.
Nice.
It's becoming
furries are gonna fix public transit in the United States.
It'd be nice, but no, it's intense how big they are, and it's increasingly becoming a question of like how do you deal with this. Like I think specifically at this event, Anthrocon. I think it was like a 5-hour wait in line to do registration or something like that at the beginning, which is just like insane. What? Like they just could not keep the line moving. Which like at that point I would just a Chad would just not register because I feel like you could just come up with something else to do and then come back when the line's gone. In my case, I arrived with Marty a day after it started and there was no line. That is the funny element about these things is that technically you can get 1 day passes and people can come and go at any day, but there is such a rush of people arriving exactly for the first day and leaving exactly after the last day that like there is this massive rush for the front line here. I guess Anthrocon might be worse than other ones because it looks like they actually try to check your badges coming in and out of the location, whereas like amusingly if you go to like MFF or most other furry conventions, you don't super need a badge at all or to register. Like if you've been to PAX, you're familiar, or any other like normal convention, you're probably familiar with the idea of like actually having to go through like a checkpoint to get into the venue, because the whole point is the entire venue is this continuous place that's full of like, here's all the merch and here's the stalls for all of the games they're showing, and all the panels are throughout these hotels and so on. But at a furry convention, it's just like hotels that are public for the most part. I think Anthrocon might be one of the only ones that actually has like a really big proper convention hall that is a convention center and so on. Like in this video, you can see David L. Lawrence Convention Center up on the back, up on the top of the wall there. But a lot of them are just using hotel spaces that have very large lobbies. So they're just not closed off. So you can just walk in. In fact, people do come in and they try to like get you to give them $20.
What?
Yeah, like people from the out in the street will come in and panhandle at people because they'll just walk in because it's not a closed venue. But
wait,
like
like
that's your life hack,
people?
Is that if you're at a furry convention and it's not set at a convention center and you're not trying to go to the dealer's den right now, you can probably just not get your badge until later when the line is gone. If the line looks bad, just don't worry about it. Fuck it. And the dealer's den will still be there tomorrow, so meh. The main thing is that
they need to make money.
Yeah.
I need my badge each time because I want to watch the dance competition, which is an amazing show. Sometimes the panels might be past a checkpoint, but sometimes they're not.
Oh, but that's weird. I don't like that. I don't like that there be panels not behind a checkpoint.
They're just kind of hanging out in a space. They're very niche panels. I went to some writing panels at Anthrocon, and there was like 10 people in the room, just hanging out.
Okay.
Just vibing. They're hilariously niche things, but yeah. I don't remember the entire discussion surrounding the population sizes and so on, but it's definitely a thing that's like coming up of just like, how do we deal with these outgrowing their venues? The worst one, and this is a little heartbreaking because it's so close, because any convention that I don't have to fly to is a godsend, because now I'm not stressing about whether or not my entire convention is going to get canceled or something, like with Colonel, by the airline rescheduling or striking, or I miss a flight, or just the 1 million things that can go wrong with the flight, and then you're like, no, my trip's ruined. I could just drive to Reno, and I could just drive to Vegas. But Las Vegas FurCon took place at like a resort hotel, like akin to like the kind of building
for the rich furries.
Well, fake resort. Like it's like they call it a resort to make it sound nice because everything has a cool name that sounds nice. But it's just in the middle of like the desert. It's nothing cool there. But like you'll be familiar, Andrew. It's like it's got that specific different kind of hotel layout that you see at like old like the beach hotels. The way it's like a bunch of separate individual buildings with 2 floors each and like railings. Like the moment you walk out of your door, you're looking at a railing and have to walk around the railing to get to the elevator. Like it's not, as opposed to like Reno Hotel is like a giant indoor building and you have to go, you're navigating inside these like shining hallways to get to the elevators and it's all locked inside. It's like all of the Vegas location is a bunch of those buildings that are only 2 stories tall, and you're immediately outside the moment you walk out of your room. That outgrew its capacity in 1 year.
Yeah,
literally the second year I was stuck in the overflow hotel next door and having to walk over. But like, given the kind of spaces those have, like there's nowhere to sit. So like you're trying to visit the convention by going over to the other hotel where you don't have a room, and you're just kind of walking around in like the lawn and the narrow walkways, and there's no like benches anywhere because all benches were removed from society because we're afraid of homeless people, so no one's allowed to sit ever anymore. And it's like just this awkward thing where like if you're not literally going to your friend's room at the main hotel, you don't really have like a destination of any kind, and you're just kind of awkwardly floating around this overstuffed lawn area, hoping that you'll get invited to some group of people that are going to just get into a van and go somewhere in Vegas to get out of this location. like some of these places cap out real quickly in capacity and can't really scale.
Oh, because people are just showing up without buying a pass, and then they just can't get in, or is it like they're booking venues
not without a
and
pass?
selling
It's just
more...
that the convention is immediately so big that the convention is immediately so big that you get in, like there's overflow hotels. Like the hotel next door that I was staying at is part of the convention, but the convention still is at the main hotel. So that's already 2 hotels worth of tenants going to the other place.
You guys need to have like
and there's like a third one. And then there's the people staying at unofficial locations, and they're all just converging on this one location. And it's unhinged in part because like when you go to like PAX or whatever, you're there for like the games or the panels, or you're there for the events that are there. But furry conventions are about their social events. They're not about events. Like there aren't like There is a DJ upstairs, and there is a dance show at the end that's like 2 hours long. At some of them, the best ones. There isn't one at Vegas. There is an arcade, and there's a few things to do, but overall you're there for the people, and so it's just dense, like just completely filled pools. That place has like 4 pools, and they're completely filled with people.
Why don't you
trying to figure out where to put anyone?
Okay.
Pro tip: if you go to Las Vegas FurCon, go with a group of people that you know and want to hang out in Vegas with, and one of you have a friend that drives there. You need to make a Nevada or California or Colorado friend or something, because somebody has to have a car so you and your friend group can drive around, because trying to spend the whole trip in Vegas is wild unless you're literally going to be hosting people in your room for parties all weekend, because holy shit, that convention's immediately packed in.
Because of course there's no public transit.
It's not even just that, it's just the density. There's too many fucking people. Like, you need to be having more limitations.
I've never been to Vegas.
You need to have...
So I don't know.
Vegas is big, but Vegas is not like... Vegas itself is not a convention center.
It could be. What if you booked like an entire city for the FurCon?
I mean, at this point, you're gonna have to. If you're filling out 3 fucking hotels, like you're gonna start reaching a point where you might as well just book a whole goddamn casino. Like, why just have a bunch of people in fursuits the entire running around city of pulling slots? No, I mean, Reno. You wouldn't want to book Reno. Reno's a shit town to go into.
Well, but
you would want
a smaller town.
I'm going to Reno again this year.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh wait, there's conventions at Reno. Good point.
Yeah, biggest little FurCon. Yeah. That's a pretty decent convention. It's weird.
I thought that was in Las Vegas.
No, that's Las Vegas FurCon.
It's in Nevada.
Biggest little FurCon is in Reno, because you can tell because the slogan for Reno is biggest little city.
Oh yeah,
that's why it's called that. So that's the Reno's cheap to fly to. It's just not. It's just. I don't know if I don't know if it's just low demand compared to other places, or if Reno as a gambling town might subsidize plane ticket prices to some extent to get people to come in and gamble, or what might go on there. But from what I understand, the people that do have to fly into Reno, like they spend way less on those plane tickets than usual. I think I can just drive there in 2 hours, so that's great for me. So I'm just gonna go to BLFC every year, I'm sure. But also that is also a giant casino hotel, so it's pretty easy to just get a room in the hotel it's being hosted at. And it's got a really funny dynamic where if you go to like floor 1, you get put out in the lobby, and immediately you're just flooded in old people playing slots. But if you go down one more floor, you're in the furry hallway. Just a giant hallway that has like a Starbucks and a Fat Tuesdays, and at the end there's like a theater and an escalator that goes up to like the convention room. But it's just a really wide, really long hallway, like not like room sized, like Vegas, like a Reno, like a room sized hallway. It's just a long, wide room that you can see all the way down, and it's just all furries. Like that's the convention spot, and everyone's just hanging out there. They got a bowling alley, they got go-karts, they got mini golf, and a driving range where you shoot the golf balls onto like islands in the water. They got pools and hot tubs. Like it's a solid convention to just go hang out in. It's a good time.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it.
You get a big, tall, Fat Tuesdays alcoholic drink, just walk around with like a boomer and just get day drunk while playing
Wait,
mini golf.
I don't know what this is. Fat Tuesday.
They're just like alcoholic slushies, but they're served in a really long, tall drink that you often like, depending on which one you have, you might be like, you're probably holding it by like the top of the container because it has like a slight like champagne glass like bevel to it that you can hold.
It does, yeah.
So that it hangs down from there instead of trying to hold it from the bottom. And just kind of hanging.
We should have that here in Europe because it's much better than hanging on to a beer glass.
You just have to have trashier alcohol.
Wait, it's bad alcohol?
You got to trash it up.
That. No, good alcohol in this. Put good alcohol.
I mean, I think having spiked slushies in the casino is just trashy as default.
Yeah,
that's just the vibe you're in. You're drinking out of a plastic straw.
That's a fair point.
You're not here. You're not here to like drink champagne while walking amongst the museum. You're here to see like Gabriel Iglesias. That's the Reno and Vegas vibe. I've seen Gabriel Iglesias. I'm allowed to say that.
I
saw Gabriel Iglesias in Reno like a decade ago, and I had the Fluffy, which was a drink they were serving at the show, which itself was like a tropical rum mix with slushy. It's exactly the vibe.
Wow. I'm looking up pictures and it does look it actually looks very tasty.
Of the Fluffy?
I believe you.
Is that a searchable thing?
I looked up fluffy drink and the stuff that I found looks.
I don't know if that's.
I feel like that may not.
I don't know if that'll be specific.
Right.
I don't think it'll be the right thing. The joke here is that Gabriel Iglesias, when he's referring to himself as fat, calls himself fluffy, which is a very furry thing to do. But so they had a drink called the Fluffy that was just like this tropical rum slushy gimmick drink that they probably charged like $20 for on the way into the show, and you sit there and you're drinking it while you're watching this comedian amongst a bunch of boomers in a gambling venue. Yeah,
I'm looking him up now. Yeah, I know who he is.
I always feel uncomfortable watching Mexican comedians in that setting because it's always like, oh, I'm surrounded by a bunch of old people. I feel like they think this is funny for different reasons.
Sure, but he's happy. He's making money.
Like, did you ever have the experience of watching Mind of Mencia in a room full of white people and just wondering, like, hang on a minute, I don't know if this is the right vibe. I don't know if this is being watched for the right reasons. I don't love this. This does not spark joy.
Yeah, that's kind of just the risk. But I'm sure the thing that matters is, who made the show and who the audience, the target demographic is. Because even if white people are laughing at something else, at least they're being represented by their own culture, rather than it being like a shitty, I don't know, like a side character in like Seinfeld or something.
I guess.
I just mean like the idea of it. Like, this is the thing with like black comedies and family shows, was that like it's better to have a Family Matters, for example. It's better to have something like Family Matters or Fresh Prince, where it doesn't its goal isn't to be a caricature of black culture, but to be a relatable source of it, so that people that are black have a show that they can relate to, like white people have. Whereas otherwise, you would just have characters in shows that are black and aren't represented of the people of black culture, because they're just white representations of black people. That's what I meant. So, like, even if white people are laughing at Mencia, as long as it was, even if they're laughing for it because they're racist assholes, as long as the show itself is not racist, then that's good. Like, that's fine. I would rather have white people just laughing because they're racist, but giving money, I guess technically giving ad money to good Mexican representation, rather than laughing at, like, I don't know, like Joe Rogan on Netflix, and it's like, oh, that's not great. Don't do that.
Nobody laughs at Joe Rogan.
I mean, I think they laugh at him all the time, honestly, but not for the reason that
that's
he thinks.
I missed it. Sorry, I was gonna say, yeah, sorry.
You should always be laughing.
English
at Joe
is not
Rogan.
my.
He is very
I'm
funny,
not good at English,
and
clearly,
in like the way that dumb things are funny.
Yeah, I think I don't know, the conversation does get complicated because there's definitely like shows and people and comedians and so on that like the idea is that they're selling a particular like cultural context, but it can be corrupted by them essentially like the influence of the white audience essentially. Like when you realize that you need them for your money, essentially, or you just choose to specifically pander to them for popularity, and that like morphs things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I say depends on who is making the show, right? If the show is being made like front run, directed by Mexican creators, sure. But if you start seeing like a slow corporate homogeny, you know, like okay, we're gonna just put like a bunch of normal white TV directors or whatever making the show, you're like, okay, I kind of see what your goal is now. I see who your target demo is starting to be, which I think is like, I'm assuming that's why a lot of those shows didn't last very long, is because when they started to not appeal to the original core demographic, it was like, okay, well,
yeah.
I don't know who the core demographic of those shows are, because I remember seeing like 4 episodes of Mind and Mencia and being like, I don't get it, this isn't for me, and I just turned it off.
It's
like I don't know, I don't get these jokes. I still don't understand the joke of like why his wife had to be like calibers of more attractive than him, and that was constantly a comment. Like I don't understand that at all. Like, is that a normal thing? Is it normal that Mexican women are hot and Mexican men are ugly? What, like, I don't know what the joke was supposed to be, and it always was like, what is she dumb for marrying an ugly guy, or is he like, what am I supposed to laugh at here? It was, so I don't know who that show is made for, because I don't know I didn't watch it long enough to gather any insightful commentary.
That does sound pretty yikesy, actually, but yeah.
It's also common. Like I feel like it's a common trope that I've seen in a lot of other media.
Yeah, it's the yikesy trope. Yeah.
Yeah. But very, again, I don't know.
Petering out here.
Probably. I mean, we're talking about weird things.
Who's this Peter?
Well, we ran away from the original point, which is that Colonel was wrong about Overwatch, and that I don't think any cheating
somehow
is
okay. You guys are arguing about Overwatch of all things again.
It goes back to the incentives. It's just like, if companies are gonna nickel and dime their users are gonna have to be on the lookout for what not people don't need to be on the lookout for being nickel and dimed as much as they need to be on the lookout for what kind of games end up being made to facilitate the nickel and diming. Because that's my biggest concern. It goes back just to put a bow, I suppose, or a tie on my argument, is I don't really care about customer behavior. I care about what games end up being made because of the customer behavior. That was my point.
Yeah,
and I'm always gonna look at society through that perspective. So but so that's why I don't blame the users. I blame the publishers, and I'm worried for the end result.
Plus, like early access happened. It's happened for a while here and there. Like I remember there was a multi-day early access for Mass Effect Andromeda way back in like 2017, I think.
No, there was like a week, a full week or something. Yeah.
I literally like had access to it before, like I was gonna be on a trip when the game came out, but I had access to it so far in advance that I literally had videos up anyway. Like it was all taken care of.
The game came out at that point of the week.
Yeah, it is in a way. It is functionally coming out at that time because you can buy it and so on, and it is essentially like just terminology choices. Essentially, like, oh no, the release date's actually here. Is like, is it though? If it's out.
But even though I like that discussion, I like the discussion of what terminology it is and how if they're really like gaslighting us all or whatever. I like that, but that's not my biggest problem. My biggest problem is actually just they're scalping us. They're scalping the users. And they hold all the cards.
I don't think that's it, but that's fine. I think companies are doing everything that they should be doing. They're doing it right, and consumers are just really stupid and keep biting for the dumb thing. Like every company is doing exactly what it should be doing to get its stated goal, which is to make money. It is doing it successfully, well, and intelligently, and everyone is just a dumb fucking idiot for supporting it. Like, that's it. I'm fine with it. You can do whatever you want. I don't. I
spoken by the guy who owns more collector's editions than anyone I've ever met.
Yeah. I'm sitting here saying it's consumer behavior. I'm not saying I'm better than everybody else. I fall for these gimmicks. I do this stupid shit, but it's bad behavior. So I'm not going to sit here and like bemoan a company for doing something when it's my fault. It's my fucking fault. And it's not, again, I'm sitting here consciously aware that it's my fault. So it's not like, oh, the company's tricked me. Oh, it's out of my control. No, it's me. I'm choosing to engage in this behavior because I want those things. I get satisfaction from having a little dumb pet or whatever that looks like a fucking Klondike bar. Like, that is something that I enjoy. So I am to blame. I am to fault. And so are you. So if it's a problem,
that's the problem.
Yeah, it is. It's 100% human behavior. It always is.
It's fine for people to buy what they want to buy. It's totally fine. It's always going to be. You want to have it's fine.
It's not.
As long as we live in a capitalistic system, it is fine for people to spend the money where they want to spend
it. But like, just like raw milk being legal to buy, if you're buying it, it's your fault. Like, you're an idiot. You should be able to know that raw milk is not safe because that's what everyone says. It's what you can see online. There's no reason to not believe this is bad. And this is a bad deal because anyone who talks about battle passes are negative. Anyone who talks about like, buying games early is negative. The common cultural consensus about every mechanic we all hate is negative. And people just continue to go into it because they don't give a shit. And that's fine. But that means it's all consumer behavior. Like, it's not Ubisoft tricking me. I didn't get like, oh, damn it, Ubisoft did it again. Their damn wizards and psychology got me to buy a battle pass and an early access thing. No, everyone knows it's bad. We just support it because that's what we deep down actually want. So I'm ashamed, but I'm still contributing to the behavior.
I think you'd make a better argument if you let go of the shame. Andrew, let go of the shame.
Why would I let go of the shame? It's pathetic. It is absolutely abhorrently pathetic to have any emotional feelings to digital products. Like, what is wrong with you? Go get a fucking actual brain. You're stupid. You're the minorest life form ever to exist.
Art and the digitalness doesn't affect the value of art. It's still art. It's still a thing that you want to enjoy and have fun with. Like, it doesn't even have
buying a costume for a character in a video game is a zero valued product. It has no value. It is zero. It is absolutely 100% no value. Sure, it's art, but it doesn't mean it has to have a value. Art cannot have value. It doesn't have to.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't want to have it. What it means is that they shouldn't sell it like they do.
It should just not exist.
Behavior. No, why
should
not?
Just not exist.
You can make costumes for characters. It's fine.
Sure,
there's games
that are about. You can do whatever the hell you want
for characters.
It shouldn't exist in the context of a store. So
yeah, that's the other side though. It's not that people don't look at it and be like, oh, that's neat. It's that the companies are like, oh, that's neat. Pay up, $25.
Well, unlike Andrew, I think the FDA should exist.
I do think the FDA should exist.
I don't know what that is.
I think the FDA should exist very much, and I'm not saying you shouldn't regulate. I'm not saying you shouldn't regulate video games.
Like, just sell things that kill people. They're dumb for drinking it. And I'm like, no, it's the FDA.
I'm saying that like the FDA. The FDA marked milk is unsafe, but a state can decide whether or not that a food marked unsafe for consumers is legal to sell, and they said it's legal to sell dangerous milk. Okay. The FDA said it's bad. There is someone who's out there saying like, this is bad. You shouldn't do this. And if a consumer is like, no, why would I trust a complete, like an entire department made for my protection? Fuck them. Yeah, that's your fault. Like, what do you mean? I'm not going to like blame I'm not going to blame Walmart for selling like milk because the state says they legally can. Why the fuck am I going to have any expectation of the? Why would the company?
Legally can.
Yes, you should blame the state. again, I'm not. And you know who runs the state? People run the state. It's your fucking fault. It's your dumb, stupid fault for not voting for people who would make decisions that are smart.
Okay, let's not pretend the American democracy exists.
Yeah, it's
sure.
largely lobbying.
My belief is that it's localized.
We don't
small,
functionally get to
instances.
choose who's on the ballot, and we also have no control over them actually doing any of the things that they say they'll do. And they also, most of the decisions they make over the course of their career are completely not what are listed.
You cannot choose what they do.
Ballot.
That is correct, but you can choose everything else.
We have so little control over basically anything, which is why there's so many things that are like completely out of line with what's popular and so on.
Yeah.
Like up there with like the legalization of weed and gay marriage and so on, and how like those concepts were like, like the level of acceptance was so much higher than the legislature. And like we have the Palestine, we have so many other scenarios where it's like, okay, so what people think just doesn't matter. The people will we will just get ignored.
Yeah. And so you should always be cognizant of everything, and you should always be making sure that you yourself are making the correct choices and doing things. Regardless of what options are available to you.
They only matter if they're backed up by a system that helps you in those choices. It's because your individual choice protects yourself, nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't protect anybody else. It's always going to be like if you choose to never listen to advertisement, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden advertisement doesn't work.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Let me make this more clear. My belief is that companies should do everything that they can to make as much money as they can. Whether that means scamming you, tricking you, shooting you in the back, killing your grandma. I don't give a shit what they do. They should do everything in their power to make as much money as possible, because there is supposed to be a legislative branch that controls the access that they have legally to do things to make money. And so that should be what dictates that stuff. Is it insane? I am not going to expect a company to do the right thing ever. It is not completely feasible for me to expect I have the authority, the ability, the expectation to have any control over a company, how it acts, except through it following legislative policy. So all I can do is control what legislation goes in by controlling who is a legislator. That's my only power in this system. Otherwise, it's me, personally, myself, can control what choices I make and what I pay money into, because my money is just as valuable as my vote. So those are my only two methods of communication to a company, is not buying something or getting someone in office that's going to fucking nuke their kneecaps from orbit. So those are my only two options to control a company. Otherwise,
horrible news. None of this works.
Well, then I have horrible news for you. None of this conversation matters. Why are we even bothering? We should just embrace and accept our new society.
It matters because you're saying you want companies or you expect companies to do everything.
I expect companies to do what their job.
You only expect that because the system rewards over accumulation of wealth. And that's the only reason. Capitalism, if you have $1 million or if you have $1 billion, that's very different. Whereas in a personal level, the difference between having $1 million and having $1 billion doesn't matter, because you can't individually spend that much. Like, the difference is irrelevant.
And you fix that through legislation.
Well, no, actually, it's way more complicated than that, because the system itself does reward the overaccumulation of wealth through stock investments and like
legislation.
The whole financial system works around having a lot of money to make a lot of money.
Which is only possible because we do not tax people at the right amount. We allow people to do. We allow companies to do stock buybacks, which allows them to accumulate a lot of wealth that they otherwise couldn't. These are all legislative policies. You need to regulate a fucking goddamn industry. You can't just rely on the industry to regulate itself. This is why the raw milk is bad, because the FDA needs to go in and kick you in the fucking nuts and say, no, actually, the milk is dangerous. Get it away from my citizens. I want them to fucking live. I need their tax money. Do not kill my citizens with your fucking weird milk. Like, that is the whole point.
That is true.
If video games If video games are causing bad economic decisions to happen to large swaths of society, then a country legislatively should say, hey, guess what, asshole? I want that large swath of money, not you, you fuck. Stop charging these people $130 for 3 days access to a fucking dumb video game about space pirates. I don't fucking care. I want their goddamn money to build more roads. So you legislate the goddamn companies to not be allowed to sell a battle pass to 13-year-olds, and suddenly a huge swath of fucking money just started evaporating from pocketbooks and game companies across the world. Yeah. So you need to legislate them.
But when you do legislate, though, no, you're right. I agree with you. But when you do legislate, and if you legislate it to the point where accumulating enormous amounts of wealth is not overly beneficial as it is right now, then companies wouldn't want to make money at all costs.
Perfect. And I don't care what method you take. You just need to legislate it. You can't expect the company to do its job for you. It's not going.
That's why it's a paradox to want to start off saying that you want companies to continue making as much money as possible, and then on the other hand defend that you should legislate them, because those two things are in contradiction with each other. If you do legislate them, they will stop wanting to make as much money as possible.
No, because it goes right back to the cheating thing. I want to see companies do as much as they can to make as much money, because then I can find all the ways to ban them from doing it, and then I get them into a corner where they can no longer do anything to make money except one specific fucking funnel.
He wrapped it back around. He wrapped it back around.
I'm going... If I can wrap my fingers around the neck of every company until they can only produce the sound that I want them to make and not the one that I keep asking them not to, turns out my life will be better. Instead of me going to the store and having to try and wait 15 years to buy fucking toothpaste out of a goddamn plastic container, because fucking companies can just do whatever they fucking want. Like, it's just, you need
I don't know what's happening anymore.
You need... It's fine. The point is that I am totally fine with Ultimate Editions existing, because if it was really a problem, then I think it would be best to make policy or rules to fix it, or consumers just need to not buy it and we need to protest with our money. Those are the only two options. The company and companies should not and will not be expected to do whatever it takes to look out for the consumer, because that's not what companies exist for. Companies exist to make money. So why would they not make money? Why would they not do everything in their power to make money? That's their only reason to exist. This Star Wars Outlaws was not made because they care about Star Wars. They made it because they want to make money.
You're putting the horse ahead of the... What's the word? No, the other one. The cart ahead of the horse.
Horses are supposed to be ahead of the cart.
No, the only reason a horse exists...
No, you're arguing against the problem by appealing to the fact that the... so basically, you're saying that I'm pointing a problem, right? And you're saying, but look at what happens because of that problem existing. And I'm like, what I'm trying to say is, it's called... I know where you're coming from, because a lot of people act like that. You're saying that we can't solve the issue because it's a symptom of a bigger issue. And I'm not disagreeing that it's a symptom of a bigger issue. It is. All we're talking about here is due to capitalism dictating the whims and tribulations of art in general. Of course it is. Of course that's the problem. But
what would be the solution then? Like, what would be the way to fix
the rich? Always eat the rich. That's the solution to... Like, we should... Don't ask me.
That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't...
Keto diet.
Yeah, like
uproot the capitalistic system altogether and disconnect the necessity for money.
So legislation.
No, not legislation. Like, just complete societal change is needed, because people...
So you have to overthrow the government?
Artists need to overthrow the owner class. But artists require money to survive. The moment people, and artists in particular, don't require money to survive, as in, to have a roof over their head and have food on their mouths, we're going to see better art. That's the solution to the problem. But that doesn't really matter, like, for the conversation at hand, because it's such a broad issue. Where my argument, or my problem with this conversation that we had in this podcast, is a specific issue. It's a very, very tiny problem of society that is interesting. I think it is interesting to talk about, but if you start picking at the roots of it, you're going to end up at the big old baddie that obviously people can disagree with me, but it is. I don't think people disagreeing with me invalidates it from being a problem, is what I'm trying to say, right? Like for when I say, I think you, Andrew, could agree with me. What I'm trying to say is you, Andrew, could agree with me in saying that this is a problem if you disconnect it from the root cause, is what I'm trying to get at. And anybody, not just you, anybody, you know what I mean? It's like sure, me arguing against I don't know, long waiting lists in healthcare or whatever. And I talk about it as a problem, and people start trying to go to what is the root of that problem, and then start to disagree with each other, and it sort of distracts from the problem at hand, the problem that it being long waiting lists. And we can discuss the consequences of those long waiting lists and all the other stuff. But if you start to talk about the root causes, it sort of loses the, it's a deeper conversation. It's a much more complex conversation. It's much more, at least from my perspective, I'll bump up against problems that people will more readily disagree with me, because I know people don't all want capitalism to end, and that's fine to not be at that stage in your life, but that's where I'm at. So if you ask me,
it's not a very it's a transition that's going to require so much sacrifice that it is very unappealing to literally everyone.
Yeah,
like you're asking everyone to pull out their teeth so we can all eat really good food, and it's like I'm not convinced the food is actually going to be good enough to pull.
That's
all my
one
teeth
way
out.
of describing it. That's one way of describing it, and I think it matters how you describe it. But yeah,
sure,
you're saying the right thing.
But that's how it feels to me. Is like
for sure,
I would love to not live under capitalism, but I'm not also going to go back to a time where I had to build houses out of poop. Like,
and that's not what I'm saying, but
that.
That's not what I'm saying, and I respect your perspective, but I'm just saying let's not go there, because it makes the the discussion.
My only concern is what is all that matters to me is not how bad something is. It is what is an actionable thing I can do right now about that problem. Like, something is bad. Like, okay, this Star Wars Outlaw lets you buy a game or lets you play it 3 days in advance. Okay, so just not buy it. Okay. That's fine.
I don't know.
I already did that. Know. Easy.
Yeah. I think I don't know that there's anything actionable that we can have besides educating ourselves.
Like that's my problem. Is like, if it's not actionable, whatever. It's fine. It can do whatever it's doing. If there's nothing I can do about it, then I'm not gonna bother with it. I'm not gonna care about it. I'm not gonna focus on it. It's not important.
Nah, I don't agree with that attitude.
Address that. Because like what can I do? I'm just going to stress about something. I have no action. I have no way to be actionable.
I think it's worth knowing things that you're helpless to or helpless to do anything about, and that applies to
but I know that already. It's not unusual. Like I can see it. I can see and know that this is shit. Like I don't look at this and go, wow, I can get a game for $70, or I can get a game and maybe 2 other games for $109. But I don't know if this game's even good because I've never even touched it. Like,
that's the starting point. The bad thing is what this does to games in the future, and that's what or at least that's what I was preoccupied with, or I am preoccupied with, is that this sort of
it's just been around forever. This is just normal blasé flair. I feel like I have seen that exact same thing around.
Almost. But yes.
Fucking blasé flair.
Almost. But I don't think specifically the overcharging for early access has been around for too long. It's a few years.
Like, games have constantly been coming up with shitty gimmicks.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the broader societal problem. Let's not go there, because we immediately bump up against things that are way harder to discuss, and my opinions are not necessarily as matured as my specific opinion about early access, charging for early access. Yeah, but I understand. I also understand the necessity to
I'm so confused. All I feel like is just like I feel that I am still correct in the idea that if I just ignore that, I go, yeah, actually, I think a game that does make weird additions like this is probably bad. I don't want to support that, and I just ignore that. I feel like that is good. I have done the right thing, and I have done an actionable offense that will have consequences, and they may not be enough to change anything. Sure,
it's a drop in the
but
ocean.
I would rather do a drop than nothing.
But the problem isn't the game that the problem isn't the games that we talked about. The problem is all of the games that are going to exist in the 10 years from now.
That I won't
from
support?
then on. No, because you're going to get worse games. You're just going to get worse games, and you're going to keep getting worse games. That fine. And you can't do anything about it. That's why I'm saying there's nothing actionable, really.
Yeah. That's fine. Let the bad games come. I just won't buy them. Just like I don't go and watch movies that are bad. So like it's fine.
I, for one, would simply consume ethically under capitalism.